You know things are bad when the Irish people are being threatened with prison sentences if they continue to talk about a 10-year-old child that was raped last week by an illegal migrant. So we have to depend on Elon Musk and Joe Rogan to continue the conversation.
I think it was the Prime Minister of Ireland actually, posted on X after some illegal migrants snatched a 10-year-old girl and violently raped a 10-year-old girl. People were very upset about this. And they protested. The Prime Minister of Ireland, instead of saying, we really shouldn't be importing violent rapists into our country, he criticized the protesters instead.
So before we get started, if you can do me a favor, if you're new here, maybe hit like, subscribe and share. I'd really appreciate that. And you can help out the channel by becoming a member or jumping over onto the Patreon. Cheers. So an illegal migrant stabs a tourist 10 times unprovoked and receives a suspended sentence, and he's sent home because he's unwell and it was a cry for help. The offspring of some migrants savagely attacked 10 people on a train, stabbing at will. The pictures that are being painted by witnesses are truly horrific, and again, people are told by their government to not post on social media because it stokes the flames of fascism or something like that. It's all becoming extremely tiresome. It's all becoming extremely scary for people that are living under the rule of these absolute lunatic politicians that are forcing diversity down our throats. There used to be a time when we were talking about mass uncontrolled migration, illegal migrants flooding our towns and our cities, legal migrants flooding our parks and our workspaces, just making what was once the most beautiful, pleasant environment to live in an absolute hellhole. There was a time when we were talking about that stuff and it seemed like it was off in the distance somewhere. Now, legitimately, on any given day, there is a stabbing, there is an assault, there is a rape perpetrated by these people majoratively, and we get a doubling down by the government and politicians and by the media. So we are actually at a stage where for our wives and for our children and for ourselves to go out in public, if we're going to work, if we're going to the cinema, if we're going out for dinner, we legitimately could get killed at any second now at the hands of an unwell migrant, and there will be no repercussions. All there will be is gaslighting and silence, and that is a terrifying way to live our lives, something that we didn't ask for. I believe that there was a poll done in Ireland in the last couple of days where 80% of the people said that they were very unhappy with the migration into Ireland. Nothing will happen. You will be silenced, you will be debanked, you will be attacked for those opinions. I don't know where we're going with this entire scenario. I know that it brings a higher level of frustration when you're out in public. So when you're going to your local farmer's market, you're grabbing a sandwich and a cup of tea, or maybe you're heading around your local town, maybe to watch the Christmas lights or the Halloween festive events, whatever it may be. Now there's an undertone of frustration and anger when you look around at the normies. The people with the mullets and the mustaches and the coffees and the baggy jeans. You're kind of looking on, you know what's going on, right? Or are you that thick that you're indoctrinated by the media? And the answer is, of course, yes, they are that thick, because we see a multitude of absolute nut jobs coming out in the aftermath of someone being viciously attacked and killed at the hands of a migrant. And of course, people are coming out talking about this poor man. This poor man, what else could he have done? The help wasn't there for this man. When he got from Africa to Ireland, what else could he do? And you're just like, what the actual fuck? After the vicious attack on the train in the UK, we have the media and the police coming out with absolutely retarded statements about how these two people were born in Britain. It's like, okay, the two boys are African. Like, I don't get it. What, like, why are you saying that? This particular story here coming out of Ireland just Friday, I believe. Man gets suspended sentences after unprovoked stabbing of a passenger at a Dublin airport. Dublin Circuit Criminal Court heard that Mumbai, 52, stabbed a German man in an unprovoked attack. The details of this story were horrifying. There was a tourist speaking on the phone, and some black African lad who shouldn't have been here, who was walking around with no shoes on, who had already had altercations with the police that day, came up from behind him with a penknife and jabbed him 10 times, trying to take his life, screaming, "I will kill you." After a kangaroo court case on Friday, that man was sent home without any punitive measures. And the craziest part of that insane story is he lives 3 minutes from my house. My wife walks in that area all the time. And now we're at that stage, like I mentioned earlier, where it's like these things that we used to see on subways in New York City and these things that were in far off lands where these savages were attacking white people. Now all of a sudden, that's on our doorstep. And we actually have to watch where we're going, watch where we're walking, and make conscious decisions before going to get bread and milk. Because you could get randomly stabbed from behind for absolutely no reason. And if your family, in the aftermath of you getting shanked 10 times, decides to make a social media post, they'll do more time than the African who just shanked you.
A 53-year-old man has avoided jail for stabbing a German man at Dublin Airport 2 years ago in what the court heard was a cry for help. Kasunga Mbuyo, who has paranoid schizophrenia, has been in custody since the attack and today received a 2.5-year fully suspended sentence.
How many more cries for help do we actually have to live through? How many more suspended sentences will it take for people to wake up? Joe Rogan and Elon Musk decided to have a conversation, something that has been shut down, surrounding the 10-year-old child who was actually in the care of the Irish state. They dropped the ball and lost the child. And because it's Ireland and it's a city and they're overrun with savages, within minutes she was ripped into an alleyway and savagely raped. We got the obligatory statement in government buildings from our Prime Minister. He said that he was horrified about this, but he was also more horrified about the reaction from the far right and the fascists. By far right and fascists, he's talking about the normal people that were upset that a child was raped by an illegal migrant. The same as the UK yesterday, the government come out and try to shut down anybody provoking tensions and all this type of bollocks. Prime Minister wasn't allowed to talk too much about it because there's an ongoing court case. That was enough to silence an army of absolute clowns with Free Palestine and transgender flags in their bios. Pathetic. It is not hyperbole or my imagination that that particular news story disappeared from the news cycle like that. Just gone. Stop talking about it. And everything in the aftermath of that child being attacked was directed towards the far right who came out and protested and thrown some stones. They're trolling us. They're antagonizing us. They want a reaction. The way that they go about addressing these horrifying situations can only mean that they want you to react in a certain way. There was an alleged attack on one of these migrant IPAS centres. Somebody allegedly broke in and set a fire. We never saw their face. They were completely hooded. There's a lot of dodgy pictures floating around online. But of course, it's the far right and it's the locals that did it. That's how it's been portrayed in the media. And of course, they're talking about it non-stop. Some members of our media call it pure evil that there was a fire set in the vicinity of a migrant. And the state-funded mainstream media came straight out and just so happened to interview an Irish person in the aftermath of this alleged attack.
So sad. Oh, families. You know, no one deserves to be treated like that. Everyone deserves to have a safe home. No matter what country you come from. Like, we could have trouble on our doorstep. Where would we run to? We'd have to run to another country.
I know what you're thinking after seeing that. Where were the interviews when the 10-year-old Irish girl was raped last week by one of these migrants? Where were the people breaking down crying? Where was the mainstream media documenting the outrage from Irish people? This woman here, if she's not an actor, she's severely mentally ill. There's something wrong with you if you're that upset about a small fire in a migrant centre and a week before a 10-year-old girl was ripped into an alleyway and she was savagely raped by one of the migrants possibly living in that area. If you're more upset about the fire than you are about the girl as an Irish person, go get checked out. Elon Musk and Joe Rogan are more concerned about 10-year-old Irish children being attacked in Dublin than the locals in Dublin. If that's true, it quite possibly could be because, as I said, there's a serious percentage of people that have had their brains turned to mush because of the media, because of the phone, because of the incessant propaganda. So we have to rely on Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. So now we're at a stage where almost every day we're talking about an illegal migrant viciously attacking an indigenous person, whether it be the UK, Europe or Ireland. And the same playbook is used in the aftermath of every single attack to the indigenous people. Don't post online or you will go to prison. We have found ourselves smack bang in the middle of a totalitarian regime who think they have control of the populace, but would be completely overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of people that have had enough and that just don't want to put up with this anymore. Let's see where it goes from there. Cheers.